Thanks, dear viewers, for joining us in this edition of the 6 p.m. primetime newscast on Equinoxe television, live from our headquarters in Cameroon's economic capital, Douala. In our top stories in this edition of the news, one of the lawyers defending Sisiku Ayuk Tabe and the other leaders of the Anglophone detained at the Kondingi maximum security prison in Yaoundé, Barrister Kuyadze Joseph says President Paul Biya cannot solve the Anglophone crisis. He should invite the United Nations to organize a referendum, and if the people say they want to go, they should be allowed to go. He was speaking to Equinoxe television within the context of the Inside over the weekend. You will hear him in this newscast. And the president of the Cameroon Renaissance Movement, CRM political party, who came second officially in the October 7, 2018 presidential election in Cameroon, reaffirms that he won the election and his victory was stolen. He was speaking in La Vérité en Face yesterday. You will listen to Professor Maurice Kamto in this newscast. And attacks continue in the two Anglophone regions of the country. The most recent concern an attack on a plane of Cameco in Bamenda and the killing of some humanitarian workers in the crisis. Five persons have died in a road accident in Konsamba in the Mongo Division littoral region of the country. The accident occurred over the weekend. Innocent has more.
So far, there are 5 passengers of this interurban transport 30-seater bus, who died in the accident at Ejokmwa in Konsamba, Mongo Division of the Littoral region, Sunday afternoon. This witness talks of a 3-year-old girl whose head shattered.
L'enfant qui était l'enfant qu'on vient d'amener là. Ouais, Seigneur. Mon père, tu es dans la voiture là. Mais quand tu sais, non,
over 20 others who incurred injuries have been hospitalized at the Konsamba Regional Hospital thanks to the quick intervention of rescue soldiers. No one reportedly died in the private vehicle that was from the west region to the littoral on high speed. Driver of the private vehicle is reported was attempting to overtake another vehicle, but unfortunately appeared in front of the oncoming bus. The bus and car were seriously destroyed. Driver of the private vehicle is equally undergoing treatment.
The situation continues deepening in the two Anglophone regions of the Republic of Cameroon within the context of the crisis that has been pulling on for close to 3 years today. And the recent incidents in the northwest region of the country speak volumes of the situation on the ground. And an international lawyer, Barrister Kere Muna, has qualified the gunshot attack on the Cameco Airbus in Bafut in the northwest region as an outright act of international terrorism. On the other hand, the abduction and killing of a humanitarian aid worker in the Donga Mountain division in the northwest region by armed men has equally been condemned by the Northwest Humanitarian, the United Nations humanitarian organ. And these incidents that have shown the real picture of the crisis in the northwest and southwest regions of the country. Innocent has more.
The government has repeatedly echoed before and after the major national dialogue that the security situation in the restive Anglophone regions is under control with the heavy military deployment. Recent wind of deadly violence has been sweeping across, discrediting the seriousness of the major national dialogue. It is clear the Anglophone crisis, now an armed conflict, aggravates daily. with properties destroyed, many kidnapped, killed, with attacks on the rise. The recent attacks on an aircraft of the Cameroon Airlines Corporation Sunday, December 1st, 2019 by unknown persons in Bafut, Northwest region speaks volume. The Cameco plane, which left Douala and was about landing at the Bafut airport, had its fuselage pierced by a bullet, making landing complicated for the captain, though he finally did so smoothly without a human life lost. Barrister Akere Muna describes on Twitter the attack on the MA-60 in Bamenda as an outright act of international terrorism. He says it advances no cause, endangers innocent lives, and destroys any capital of sympathy accumulated. The legal mind regrets such an unscrupulous attack undermines efforts made day and night by Cameroonians in search for peace and justice. Another regrettable incident is the killing of a United Nations humanitarian aid worker, Pascal Ngwaye, in the restive Northwest region, abducted on November 30th. The killing of the commensurate worker, a local non-government organization and UN partner, has been strongly condemned by Ms. Allegra Bayochi, who says is deeply saddened by the news of the barbaric execution. While trucks of military men go to the two English-speaking regions to finish the die-hard separatist fighters for peace to return, according to government. Tibon Nash, U.S. Assistant Secretary of State for African Affairs, had said to the international community and governments of Cameroon, the war cannot be won militarily. Government had promised help to separatist fighters who refused to grab the olive branch stretched by the head of state Paul Biya as he announced the major national dialogue.
And a gun attack on a Cameco Airbus in Bafut in the northwest region of the country. Humanitarian worker killed and other civilians also killed, as well as internally displaced persons living in very difficult conditions, many of them living in sorrow. And one of them spoke to a reporter in the southwest region, Derek Jato, and the internally displaced persons said that she lost her husband and her son is sick and she is suffering, and she's pointing an accusing finger towards the Yaoundé administration. Derek Jato reports.
Yes,
Bisingi Juliet has not only lost her home,
so this people will get them for a year,
but her husband too is missing.
I don't know me Saturday. I don't tell Saturday because as any man they go on, we start on around 4 o'clock for morning time. Any man they want to go on side, they say we don't care. Any man they go on side, any no move down for pick. We never get any man just go on side. So me I not be know the Saturday today. So
on her back is her 1 year 6 months child, and he is sick. My child has never seen his father, she told me.
Like this, you never see Papa. You want to do her. You want to do her.
And that the government ought to have nipped on the bud of this crisis when it just started in 2016.
I would not really see and say the government don't really fail we. Now the truth that the government don't fail we because for the start, for the time when this crisis start, if they be fit to talk that time, like today we need to suffer up and down. What can any suffer? Can any go school? You go inside.
She will later recount witness scenes in the bushes, and her trust now is on God for intervention.
Go inside bush, you see someone they not even get chopped. Someone they don't kill them. Their PK just stranded. They go do it with that one then. PK they don't get close. They walk into food near the troop. Then only God the guide to inside bush. Even some of food they will even struggle. One come for town. We dey for you. We dey up down. We not even get place to sleep. Sometimes they, if we be here, say tomorrow they go, tomorrow go yes, so they limber, tomorrow back we dey go Bisingi. That means we just dey up and down, up and down.
But today there is good news for Bisingi Juliet. Mary Mbonya, Program Officer for Center for the Advancement of Women Initiative, is giving her a source of livelihood and other women of her kind.
As far as these IDPs are concerned, our main goal is that we want to make them feel a bit comfortable out of their home, out of their base. Some requested to be given some capital to carry out business that we did. We have some people who want to carry out poultry farming, some into restaurant business, some want to sell food stuff like gari, fish, granules. So we provided all of that.
Bisingi Juliet has been given a bag of gari to start a business. Her prayer is to succeed, have enough funds, and be able to treat her sick son, and even extend a hand of assistance to her friends and family members still in the bushes.
Well, we thank God for our sister then, do our mommy then, what help with. The ones that say, okay, we need to do nothing, say, I'll be picking then. If we help even our own brother, they see the inside bush, because inside that bush is not really easy. Now, the man will never enter inside, looking at the inside.
And because of the unstable socio-political and security climate reigning in the two Anglophone regions of Cameroon, gender-based violence is on the rise. And in the report coming up next, a reporter in the southwest region, Derek Jato, takes a look at efforts of non-governmental organizations, civil society organizations, and even religious bodies to mitigate the impact of this vice.
Gender-based violence is on the rise.
1 out of every 3 women sometimes experience violence. 1 out of every 5 child suffer from domestic violence.
And today a day has been chosen to speak out, name and shame perpetrators of gender-based violence.
We're talking about Thursday in Black. It's a campaign against gender-based violence. The Black just stands for resilience and resistance.
In a come together that saw mostly youth in their 100 converging on Boya subdivision gave birth to a special campaign.
We'll try to bring this day to raise awareness, to make them understand that violence is not a part of us.
And these participants are expected to go and act as peer educators in their various communities, as they now have the knowledge on how to identify different forms of gender-based violence. Experts say the gender-based violence situation has recently worsened in the two Anglophone regions, suffering from what is today known as the Anglophone crisis.
It is quite that there are some places that men are not supposed to go. There are some hours that men are not supposed to work. And when the military or the armed men, they violate a lot of the men's rights during this crisis.
Thursday in Black was organized by the HIV/AIDS program of the Presbyterian Church in Cameroon, whose goal is to see a world without rape and violence.
And one of the lawyers defending Sisiku Ayuktabe and the other detainees of the Anglophone crisis, Barrister Kuiyadza Joseph, has said that the President of the Republic of Cameroon, Paul Biya, cannot solve this problem. According to him, he should invite the United Nations organization to organize a referendum, and the result of the referendum should be respected. Take a listen to him.
It is very unfortunate that the President of Cameroon, Mr. Paul Biya, he made such a statement, because immediately thereafter, I quite remember that it was at the Simalene airport when he just arrived from Côte d'Ivoire, because immediately thereafter we saw a mass deployment of troops and military hardware to the northwest and southwest regions, and we all know what happened thereafter. The military descended not on those terms secessionists and terrorists and criminals. The military descended on the population, killing innocent civilians, and we saw mass exodus of civilians in the northwest and southwest regions to other parts of Cameroon and even out of the country. So it is, to say the least, is the most unfortunate thing that he ever did, and I'm sure that he must be regretting that he made such a statement, because in other words, he declared war on those he termed his brothers and sisters of the northwest and southwest regions. And 2 years on now, the question to answer is, I think he is the one to answer the question: have the criminals been tracked down? Has the war ended? On the contrary, the war is getting more sophisticated and getting more difficult for him. The war is getting more difficult for his soldiers. The way things are, it is almost impossible for Mr. Biya to solve this problem. And I think that everybody is seeing that Mr. Biya can never solve this problem. Because he himself, recently in Paris, he said the Anglophones, they had tried to assimilate the Francophones that are in the majority, had tried to assimilate the Anglophones, and it didn't work. One. Secondly, he has sent his military that has inflicted pain on southern Cameroonians. What he should do is to hands off by calling on the international community to please, if these people say they don't want to belong again to Cameroon, they don't trust me, come and conduct a referendum and ask them whether they still want to belong to La République du Cameroun, or they want to be on their own. If the outcome of that vote, if majority say they want to belong to La République du Cameroun, so be it. If the majority say we want to go, we want to be on our own, he should allow them go.
Mr. Akuyadze Joseph speaking there and talking about a statement the President of the Republic of Cameroon, Paul Biya, made on the 30th of November 2017 upon his return from Ivory Coast, where he took part in the 5th African Union, European Union summit. The President of the Republic said at the airport that all measures have been taken to put an end to acts of aggression such as the killing of 4 soldiers and 2 police officers in Mamfe in the southwest region of the country. He was speaking on the heels of this incident, and this statement was later interpreted as a declaration of war on the English-speaking population of the Republic of Cameroon. And Saturday, 30th November 2019, marked 2 years after the President of the Republic made that statement. And Barrister Akuyadze Joseph was looking at the impact of that statement on the Anglophone crisis, and also indicating that the President of the Republic should invite the United Nations organization to solve the problem. And on the other hand, Professor Maurice Kamto, National President of the Cameroon Renaissance Movement, CRM political party, who came second officially in the October 7, 2018 presidential election, told La Vérité en Face yesterday on Equinoxe television that the military option chosen by the Yaoundé administration is not going to solve the Anglophone crisis. And he also reaffirmed the claim that he won the presidential election and his victory was stolen. For me, Armstrong Sander compiled the statements made by Professor Maurice Kamto in La Vérité en Face yesterday.
In his first televised interview after being released from prison on October 5, 2019, President Paul Biya's main challenger at the October 7, 2018 presidential election in Cameroon maintained that he won the election.
I did win that election. It is exactly what I said a year ago, based on the figures that came out from the polls. And I even mentioned some localities before the Constitutional Council where we clearly won the elections. But when we come back to the reports, it shows that somebody else won the elections. But I repeat it here, in front of my fellow Cameroonians, I won the election. And the only way to know if my statement is grounded and if I won the election or not is to recount.
Maintaining that the fight against electoral hold-up continues, Maurice Kamto outlined some irregularities with the electoral code and process in Cameroon.
Ballot paper, single ballot paper. Secondly, to put in the law that all the reports are equally authentic, because for now they say that only the report of Elekam is authentic and can be used as evidence before the court, which is nonsense, because if your representative in a polling station receive a report with no weight, it is useless. Why should you give him a report which does not have any value? After the polling station, the report are brought to Elecam office for 48 hours before they bring it to the local commission for the proclamation of the results. Why should the report go to Elecam for 48 hours? Whereas every representative in the polling station has his own report. They should leave the polling station and go straight to the commission and proclaim the results. And we all know that it is during that period that they will manufacture the new results and new reports.
Maurice Kamto think using the military to crush Anglophone separatists will only prolong antagonism between Anglophones and the Cameroonian army.
Even if they overcome and they succeed in winning the war militarily against the people there, it will stand for a while, but it will burst out again after some time. It is a political matter which should be settled politically. Maybe some people have some good reasons to maintain that so-called military option for their own personal affairs or interest, or showcase or show up. But there is no need for you to showcase against your own people. If you are a military, you want to fight a war against a foreign enemy, not against your own people.
The CRM national president and party officials were handcuffed like criminals, refused the opportunity to ease themselves, roughly mishandled while being transported from the city of Douala to a detention center in Yaoundé. With regards to the boycott of the 2020 municipal and legislative elections, Professor Maurice Kamto say more than 90% of his party supporters and sympathizers now agree with him that the decision to boycott the election was the best.
Thanks, ladies and gentlemen, for staying with us. Talking Point is up next. We are receiving a legal mind. Barrister Kamwa Limen is the head of the Kamwa Limen law firm here in Cameroon's economic capital, Douala, and a PhD researcher. Barrister, you're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Babila. It's always a pleasure being here.
All right. Saturday, that was last Saturday, 30th November 2019, marked 2 years after the head of state declared that all measures had been taken to put an end to atrocities, acts of aggression in the northwest and southwest regions of the country. And he was speaking upon his return from Ivory Coast, and after the killing of 4 soldiers and 2 police officers in Mafi in the southwest region of the country, and 2 years have elapsed. What do you think about that statement, the impact of the statement, and the measures that government has taken so far to put an end to the atrocities?
Well, Mr. Babila, you see, it is very obvious that the statement is not true, because it will appear it is aggravated the situation, because it's kind of declaration of war. And you agree with me that the situation back there is extremely bad and is getting bad. It's getting worse with time. And I think the president should review those statements and maybe look for another option to solve this Anglophone crisis.
Barrister Kuyaza Joseph, speaking in The Insight, said it was a serious mistake that the head of state made.
Yes, and I think he himself knows that it's a mistake he did. And you see, what is bad is that he has not realized that he could turn around from his mistake. It is never wrong. It is not a bad thing to discover that you made a mistake and you come back to right senses. You see, so I think my colleague is perfectly correct in his declarations. And the president, I always say that he should be honest enough to realize that he made a serious mistake, and it has led to the spilling of so much blood in the Anglophone region.
Military measures have been taken over the years, according to some analysts, people like Professor Elvis Ngole, to respond to the military component of the crisis, the security component of the crisis. Besides the military measures, the other measures too have been taken, but there's a lot of focus on the military measures. Thus, the interpretation of President Paul Biya's statement as a declaration of war. But was it really a declaration of war?
Yeah, when you make those statements and immediately after you send military people you send the warfare military battalion to Northwest and Southwest, is a declaration and the commencement of war. So it was, as I said before, it is a grievous mistake, a terrible mistake that unfortunately we the Anglophones are paying a very huge price. And be rest assured that equally the military, the Cameroon government, is not only spending a lot of money to sustain the stupid war, they equally are, there's a good number of military people who have been killed, which is very unnecessary, was very unnecessary. The problem started with some revendications, as we keep saying, and the government could have dialogue with the people before they get to this state. And unfortunately, where we are today, it is not easy to come back.
And Professor Maurice Kamto in La Vérité en Face yesterday on Equinoxe television said the military option cannot work, cannot solve the problem. We heard this already from other persons. We heard this from the United States Secretary of State for African Affairs, Thibault Nash. But this military option is still being implemented on the ground, though close aides of President Paul Biya have been saying that the military part of the efforts of government to solve the crisis is not the policy option of President Paul Biya. His policy option, according to them, is dialogue, but the military component is also there.
You cannot be dialoguing and fighting at the same time. It does not make sense. You either drop the guns and you dialogue, or you continue, you go ahead in your error in killing your citizens. You see, what we've not learned is the French Cameroonians ought to have learned in what happened in France in 1789, the French Revolution. They ought to have learned that military, you cannot use military against your own people and then you succeed. Unfortunately, Cameroon military, I don't want to put it in very hard words, but they seem not to appreciate the situation properly, because if you see what happened in France, Louis sent the military to kill, and they went and fraternized and instead turned back against him. So it is time the military should equally know that you don't just go to kill, they are killing their own brothers. You understand? If you send a Beti military man to the Northwest, he's married to, or his family is linked somehow to Anglophones. So you send those people to kill their own brothers, and in retaliation, these people to kill them. It's a senseless option.
It's a senseless option. What should be done now? The military should be completely withdrawn from the two regions?
Of course, it should be the first thing to be done. The military should be sent back. Police there are peacekeepers, they can handle situations, and then we go on to dialogue. It is very important. It's not even dialogue again, maybe negotiations.
Because some are talking of a negotiated settlement.
Yes, that's what should happen. Because you see, the Anglophones came into this union freely, right? And so we should stay in it freely, and whenever they choose, if the majority choose to move away, they should go without being killed. They didn't kill us, they didn't force us to come into it. It's true that it is rumored that there were some tricks that were played, first of all, for us to be part of this system. But if we are uncomfortable, and we say we are uncomfortable, and they think war, killing our subjects was the best option, it has proven that they made an error.
And the last incidents in the Northwest region speak volumes of the situation on the ground.
Of course.
You're talking about the gun attack on a Cameco Airbus at the Bafut airport, and the killing of a humanitarian worker condemned by the humanitarian arm of the United Nations. What do you think about these incidents?
You know, in one of my first early interviews, I made mention of the fact that there has been a gross violation of international humanitarian law in this country, but perpetrated by the military and the Bazonians. And Bazonians, because we all understand, we've been attacked. These people were attacked. It is very, very indicative and very grievous, very serious that an aircraft was attacked. So the government, if they have not seen enough sign before now, I think they have understood that if they go this far, then things are getting really out of hands. It could sooner or later be a full-blown war. So, as I said, and as many people are saying, everybody is saying the same thing to one person who seems not to understand. Stop this bloody war. Stop this senseless war. You cannot be using your military against your own citizens. Except he wants to tell us that Anglophone regions don't belong to Cameroon.
I don't think that should be the case in any way when we listen to the words of the authorities who keep on telling us every day that Cameroon is one and indivisible. But the actions, some critics, some politicians, some civil society leaders, some legal minds like you seem to be showing the contrary of those statements.
Look, let me tell you something. We lack a lot of honesty in this country. Who are those people to say making those statements? There are people who are benefiting from the union. You will not expect a minister to come here and tell you the contrary. Those who profit from the system will want to protect the system because it gives them bread. Go to the ordinary man, go to the middle class and ask. They will tell you the truth. If you call, I bet you, if you call the names of, if you identify all those who are saying, you will discover that they are the ministers. They have their big positions, and they think about their wealth and really don't care about the suffering population.
But Mr. Akuyadze Joseph thinks that President Paul Biya cannot solve this problem.
Yes, I think he will not only be able to solve it because the very first thing is pride. The very first is pride. And the second is that, to be honest with you, the Anglophones don't trust him anymore. Let us be I don't want to generalize it that Cameroonians don't trust him, but Anglophones don't trust this government anymore. And to make it worse, you see that...
Why did they not trust him? He has been declaring his good faith, his determination, his will to solve this problem, to put an end to all the atrocities.
These type of problems are not solved by statements. They are solved with actions. What action to you? Has there been any action that has been done to solve the Anglophone crisis? None has been done. You see, ministers go with money that you cannot even account. Who gave them the money to divide on the field? How much have they divided? How much? You see, they go on account. They take money, state money, and divide to people claiming that they are trying to solve their problem because they have been chased out from the region. No, they are not solving any problem.
Ministers sharing money?
But is it strange to you that the Minister of Territorial Administration goes around give mattresses, give blankets, give money, and give? Is it strange to you?
That's within the context of the close to 13 billion francs here, the humanitarian aid plan of government.
Do you know something? I think that a committee would have been put in place to manage that than an individual. When you take the money from your pocket, you give people, take and give people. Which account? How is it accountable? And who are those who are receiving the benefits? Has it not been reported that some of these people who benefited from this are not even Anglophones? And is that even a solution to stop the crisis? It's not a solution to stop the crisis. It's a means to keep the people comfortable where they are than solving the problem. The real solution to the problem is to make those people go back to their regions. And the only way of doing that is to create the environment. If the environment is not conducive, the people will stay out. And then you take money that would have been used for another thing, you go and divide, give them mattress, give them rice, give them oil. How does that solve the Anglophone problems?
President Paul Biya is the head of state, and he is responsible for the citizens under his control, and he has been taking some actions here and there, some measures here and there, talking and so on to solve the crisis. But you are saying that he cannot solve this crisis. Are you joining the CPP to say that he should quit, he should leave the Unity Palace for some other person to come in and solve this problem?
That is even overdue. He ought to have left. Any person who is realistic would have discovered that in the present context he would have given up. He would have, or create a body that would take care of the Anglophone crisis. We had a national dialogue. What came out from it? Nothing has come out from it. Rather, some few days after, or weeks after, they appointed DOs and senior divisional officers in the area where you think, where there are proposals that we should make them autonomous. So it's overdue. It's overdue.
Barrister, what's your take on a United Nations organize a referendum to solve the Anglophone crisis?
It is laudable. It is what should be done, because it is through a referendum that we got into this relationship. Am I correct?
Right.
Good. And so, if it's not working, they should ask the Anglophones what they want. Mr. Babila, there is no way out. Let us not pretend. You cannot use military against your own people, and military cannot solve problems where people think that their rights have been trampled upon, and they have the will, they have the desire to change the system. Military will not do it. Military will not do it. So keep spending your money, keep shedding blood, keep making promises, keep turning around, keep dividing mattresses, money everywhere. It's not going to solve the Anglophone crisis. And believe me, Mr. Babila, it is extremely frustrating.
Now, something else. Professor Maurice Kamto maintains that he won the October 7, 2018 presidential election. Yes. He maintains that his victory was stolen, and that is why he continues to fight against what the CRM party has called an electoral hold-up and other irregularities in the electoral system of Cameroon. We are about more than a year now after the presidential election, and Professor Maurice Kamto continues clamoring for his victory. What do you think about this?
You know, Professor Maurice Kamto is a very intelligent person. He's a very smart lawyer, and if he's consistent, if he's very consistent in his claims, then I think he's founded. Me personally, I voted Maurice Kamto, and to me, he's my president.
He's your president.
It's my candidate. It's my president. He's my champion.
But the president of the republic is public.
I said my president. I didn't say the republic. I said my president.
Okay, your president.
He's my president.
Okay. Now, talking about this struggle to make sure that some wrongs are made right as far as the elections are concerned, and his announced boycott of the municipal and legislative elections, and all of that, which most of his actions are qualified as illegal by the administration. Do you think that he's on the track to change this country?
Look, I am very happy that I had the opportunity yesterday to clear some of these doubts. You know, to understand Maurice Kamto, you must be honest. If you are not honest, you will not understand him, or you pretend not to see the truth. Look, what he did is the best thing that any person with good intention or good intent would do in this country. You know, some people came and said he went in for presidential elections and now he's struggling to stop others from. He answered the question yesterday very convincingly, and that is it. I honestly had prayed that they should not even go for elections. I prayed. Everybody, we all have political aspirations. We all maybe want to be parliamentarians, senators, ministers, but under which context? I think he is founded in what he did. And let me draw your attention to something. That party has a spirit, and those who run into that party thinking that it is a party to go and maybe have positions, I think by now they discover that they made a mistake. MREC is for people who are devoted, people who have a Cameroon in mind, people who think that the context can change. That is the vision of that party,
and not scrambling for one position or the other.
No, as Maurice Kamto rightly said yesterday, it is an election of proximity, close to the grassroots. So if you go and you cannot solve their problems, it is of no momentum. And you know that the fact that he did not go, he withdrew from elections, be rest assured that they might postpone the date of election.
The Social Democratic Front also came up earlier and said if the crisis are not solved, it will not be proper to organize elections. You know, may not be taking part in the elections, and so on.
You know, I feel a bit disappointed with Social Democratic Front, because what Maurice Kamto did, fighting for the Anglophone cause, ought to have been spearheaded by the SDF to say we are not going. No, we don't have peace. But when you go, you deposit your documents, you file your documents, and it's Maurice Kamto who is coming to remind people that you cannot go to this place because there is no peace. There cannot be election in Northwest and Southwest. Then you say that, okay, if they don't resolve the problem, you're not going for elections. Can the Anglophone crisis be resolved between now and February? It has taken 3 years. They cannot resolve it. So you cannot. So to me, it was an error. They would have associated with MRC to give a harder push.
Even though one of its members, Honorable Awudumbaya, had earlier said, "I cannot walk on blood, on corpses." Yes, and I hail him. I hail him for that. He's being honest. He's being honest. All right. Thanks, Barrister Kamwa Limen, head of the Kamwa Limen Law Firm and PhD researcher. Thanks for coming.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, ladies and gentlemen, for staying with us. That's it for today.